As we begin a new year and we look out over the next 12 months that are in front of us, I always like to make predictions or say, where are things going? Where are we heading in cybersecurity? One of the definitely big themes for those of us in the United States or do business in the United States is federal regulation. Listen closely. You hear that? Woo, woo, right? The train is coming down the track, right? Whether you like it or not, in the year 2023, the United States is going to have federal data privacy and data protection laws in place. It is going to happen. Now, here's the important thing to remember. If you wait for the regulation to come out, you're not going to have enough time to respond because it's going to be pushed through very, very quickly. And the reason is we're way behind. If you look at Europe, GDPR, that was over 5 years ago. Over 5 years ago, the European Union had privacy laws to protect all of their citizens. And 5 years later, basically, the United States is being run by California. It's really the California data privacy laws are the ones that are the most strict, that are typically the ones that most organizations follow as we move forward. But here's the trick. Because the U.S. is so far behind, when they actually push out data regulation, if you wait to start at that moment, you're going to be behind the curve. You are not going to have enough time. So if you haven't started looking at or focusing data protection, data privacy, you need to start today. And it's simple. Look at the California laws and or look at GDPR and start implementing those. It is very, very clear that the U.S. federal privacy laws and data protection laws are going to be similar to those two. I would say right now that GDPR is a little stricter than the California laws. So start off with the California laws and start implementing some of those measures. Then once those measures are in place, step back and look at GDPR and start putting those measures in place. So this way, when the U.S. does finally put their federal laws into play, you're not behind. You're ahead of the curve, you're ready to respond, and you're ready to react. Now, of course, what everyone is waiting for and what everyone's looking at is what is going to be the enforcement. That's really the trick. If you look at the U.S. have had many attempts from private like HIPAA and PCI and some of those, and they weren't really that successful. If you compare those to GDPR, which is considered very successful, the big difference, and really the only difference is the enforcement component. GDPR is strictly enforced, as with PCI and HIPAA and some of those, companies would actually look at what the fines were. And while this is scary, it's true. It was actually in many cases cheaper to pay the fine than it would be to implement all the security measures that were required. So as the U.S. is ready to launch their federal data privacy laws, the real question is going to be enforcement, because that's really going to be the pivotal piece of whether people really take it seriously or organizations just give it a head nod and continue on their normal business.